The first Sunday nobody came to dinner. I thought I had forgotten what day it was. By the third Sunday, my grandson showed me the message my daughter had sent to the entire family. It said I had asked everyone to stop visiting. I had never said any such thing. My name is Edward Foster. I was 79 years old when my family apparently decided I needed peace and quiet. The problem was that I had not asked for either one. For 47 years, Sunday dinner happened in my house at 4 o'clock. Not approximately 4. Not whenever everybody happened to arrive. 4. My wife Marian started the tradition in 1979, the year our daughter Catherine was born. At the time we lived in a 2-bedroom apartment above a pharmacy, owned 6 dinner plates, and had a kitchen table so small that opening the oven prevented one person from leaving the room. Marian invited her parents anyway. Then my parents. Then her sister. Then someone brought a cousin nobody had warned me about. By the time our son David was born 3 years later, Sunday dinner had stopped being a meal and become an institution. We moved houses twice. Changed jobs. Changed cars. Raised 2 children. Buried 4 parents. Welcomed grandchildren. Sunday stayed at 4. Marian died 4 years before this story began. She was 74. We had been married 54 years. And after she died, Sunday dinner became more important to me than it had ever been while she was alive. That sentence is probably where most of my trouble started. The first Sunday nobody came was in October. I had made pot roast, mashed potatoes, green beans, carrots, and Marian's apple crumble. I say Marian's apple crumble because that is what everyone called it. In reality, I made the crumble for 32 of the 47 years. Marian claimed mine was better and then criticized the amount of cinnamon every single time. Marriage creates strange professional relationships. At 3:45 I said 8 places. Mine. Catherine and her husband Paul. Their daughter Megan. Their younger daughter Abby. David. His wife Joanne. And their son Luke, when he was home from work. 7 places were around the table. The 8th chair was Marian's. Nobody sat there. Not since she died. I did not put a plate in front of it. I was not insane. But the chair remained exactly where it had always been. At 4 o'clock, nobody had arrived. At 4:10, I checked the driveway. At 4:15, I checked my phone. At 4:22, Catherine called. "Dad, you're not cooking, are you?" I looked at enough food to feed a small construction crew. No. There are lies committed for money. There are lies committed for love. And there are lies committed because your daughter has asked a question in a tone that makes truth feel inconvenient. She said, "Good. Why?" We talked about taking a few Sundays off. No, we didn't. Dad? When? Last week. Last week had been Abby's 16th birthday. There had been 11 people in my house. A chocolate cake. 2 pizzas somebody brought even though I had made chicken. And an argument between Megan and Luke about whether artificial intelligence would make either of their jobs unnecessary. I remembered the evening perfectly. I did not remember agreeing to cancel Sunday dinner. I said you work too hard, Catherine told me. You said I should let people bring more food. Yes. That is not the same as everybody disappearing. She sighed. Just take the evening off. I looked at the pot roast. It appears I already have. I ate alone. That sounds more tragic than it was. The roast was excellent. The problem was the silence. A house built around family noise reacts badly when everyone stops making it. At 4:15 on most Sundays, Paul would be opening my refrigerator without asking. Abby would be complaining that someone had taken the chair nearest the outlet. Megan would be telling me not to call every vegetable a salad. David would arrive late and claim traffic. Joanne would say the traffic excuse stopped being believable 10 years earlier. Catherine would go into the kitchen and ask what needed doing. I always said nothing. She always found something. That Sunday, the refrigerator remained closed. The following Sunday, I did not cook. That was partly pride and partly because I still had enough pot roast in the freezer to survive a minor national emergency. Nobody came. Catherine texted around noon. "Hope you're resting today." I answered. "I have been sitting since breakfast. Should I continue through Tuesday?" She sent a laughing face. I did not laugh. The third Sunday, at 2 in the afternoon, someone knocked on my back door. It was Luke. David's son. 24 years old. Tall. Dark hair. Worked for a surveying company and owned approximately 9 shirts, all of them plaid. He came into the kitchen and looked around. No dinner? No family. Luke smiled. Then stopped when he realized I was serious. "I thought that's what you wanted." I turned toward him. "What?" He reached for his phone. "Dad said not to bother you." "Your father said what?" "Aunt Catherine told everyone you wanted some space." There are phrases younger people use that older people learn to distrust. Space is one of them. "What space?" "I don't know." "Show me." Luke hesitated. Then turned his phone toward me. The family had a group message. I knew about it. I was not in it. This had originally been my decision after discovering that 27 messages about Megan's lost charger could apparently occur while I was asleep. Catherine had written. "Dad asked me to tell everyone he doesn't want Sunday dinners or drop-ins for a while. He needs some quiet and doesn't want to feel pressured to host. Please respect that and let him rest." Sent 19 days earlier. I read it twice. Then a third time. Luke said, "Grandpa?" I never said this. Luke stared at me. "You didn't?" "No." "Oh." That was when I discovered there are few sounds more insulting than a 24-year-old saying "oh" after showing you evidence of a family conspiracy. "Did nobody think to call me?" Luke looked uncomfortable. "She said you didn't want people bothering you. Calling me is bothering me now? We thought we were respecting you." "By ignoring me." "When you say it that way, it sounds bad. Luke, there is no good way to say it." 10 minutes later I was driving to Catherine's house. Luke offered to come. I told him no. Then I changed my mind and told him yes because I had reached an age where having a witness occasionally seemed prudent. Catherine opened the door and looked from me to Luke. "Oh." Apparently it was hereditary. I held up Luke's phone. "What is this?" She did not pretend not to know. "Come inside." "No." Luke said. "I'm going inside." He walked past his aunt and disappeared toward the kitchen. Cowardice can be intelligent. I stood on Catherine's porch. She pulled her cardigan tighter against the cold. "You told my family I didn't want them." "That is not what I said." "It is exactly what you said. I said you needed a break from hosting. You said I asked you to tell them." Catherine looked down. "Yes." "Did I?" "No." At least she did not insult me further by lying. "Why?" She looked at me. "Because you scared me." I had expected control. I had expected exhaustion. I had expected her to say I was old. I had not expected fear. When? Abby's birthday. After dinner that night, everyone left around 8:30. Catherine drove home, realized she had forgotten her purse, and came back. She found me sitting on the kitchen floor. I remembered. I had stood too quickly after unloading the dishwasher. The room moved slightly. I sat down. Not fell. Sat. There is a difference. I had dropped a glass. That was why there was a towel in my hand when Catherine returned. She also found one burner on the stove turned to the lowest setting. That sounded worse. I had been keeping gravy warm. I had forgotten it. I was sitting for maybe 30 seconds. You don't know that. Yes, I do. You looked white. I am 79, Catherine. White is becoming my general color. This isn't funny. It had not been funny to her. That much was clear. She said she had wanted me to see a doctor. I had told her I was fine. She wanted me to stop hosting for a few weeks. I had told her absolutely not. So you cancelled it for me? Yes. And lied. Catherine closed her eyes. Yes. Why tell them I wanted them to stay away? Because if I told them it was my decision, somebody would show up anyway. Good. No, Dad. Yes. You would cook. Yes. You would stand in that kitchen for 6 hours proving you were fine. I am fine. She gave me a look. I knew that look. Marian had invented it. Then Catherine said, "You make everyone prove they love you by letting you exhaust yourself." That sentence was so unreasonable that I remembered it word for word. What does that even mean? It means nobody asked you to cook 3 meats at Christmas. We are talking about Sunday. We are talking about you. She stepped closer. You won't let anyone bring dinner unless it's a side dish. You won't let us order food. You won't sit down while other people clean because you say it's your kitchen. You complain your knees hurt and then carry folding chairs out of the basement because you don't want Luke doing it. I've carried those chairs for 30 years. Exactly. I stared at her. I am not retiring from Sunday dinner. Why does everything have to be retirement? Because everything you say sounds like a polite way of telling me my useful years are over. Catherine stopped. That one reached her. Her voice became quieter. Is that what you think? I should have answered. Instead I said, tell everyone Sunday dinner is back next week. Then I left. Luke was waiting beside my car. I thought you went inside. I did. And? I heard everything through the window. So you did not go inside. Technically I crossed the doorway. I started the car. Luke did not move. What? He shoved his hands into his jacket pockets. She was wrong. Yes. But she's not wrong about everything. I stared at my grandson. Do you want a ride home? No. Excellent. I drove away. On Wednesday, Catherine made me a doctor's appointment. I canceled it. Then made another appointment myself for Thursday. There are principles worth defending. Apparently scheduling is one of mine. My doctor was a man named Dr. Ramirez, 46 years old and increasingly amused by me. He listened while I described the dizziness. Checked my blood pressure sitting. Checked it standing. Reviewed my medications. Then he asked how much water I drank while cooking. Coffee contains water. He looked at me. Fine. Very little. One of my blood pressure medications had also recently been increased. He adjusted it. Told me to drink more water. Told me to sit down when lightheaded. And told me there was no evidence that one dizzy spell meant I was incapable of cooking dinner. I liked Dr. Ramirez very much that day. Then he ruined it. He said, "Your daughter's concern was reasonable. I liked you better 10 seconds ago. She should not make decisions for you. Correct. But you should not make people guess how you're doing either. I did not hire you for family counseling. You didn't hire me at all. Good doctor. Annoying man." Sunday came. I made chicken. 1 chicken. Mashed potatoes. Green beans. No dessert. This was my version of compromise. At 3:30, I was dressed. At 3:45, the table was ready. At 4, nobody came. Again. At 4:05, my phone rang. "David." "Dad? Where are you?" A pause. "Home." "Why?" "Catherine said dinner was back, but I already told Joanne we weren't going." "Why?" Another pause. "Dad, I can't do it every Sunday anymore." I sat down. David lived an hour and 40 minutes away. He had made the drive most Sundays for 28 years. Sometimes every other week. Sometimes 3 weeks in a row. But enough that I had always considered his attendance automatic. Since when? A while. What does that mean? Since Mom. The house changed temperature. What about your mother? David breathed out. I hate sitting at that table. I looked toward Marian's chair. You hate our table. No. Yes, that is what you said. I said I hate sitting there. Why? Because her chair is empty. I said nothing. David continued. Nobody can sit there. Nobody talks about it. We all sit around this empty chair every Sunday pretending dinner is the same. I never told anyone not to talk about your mother. No. You just keep everything exactly the way she left it. That felt like an accusation. It is my house. I know. Her chair belongs there. I know. Then what do you want? I don't know. I heard something in his voice then. Not irritation. Grief. David was 52. He had children. A mortgage. Gray hair. And I had somehow forgotten that he was still Marian's son. He said. For the first year after Mom died, I used to cry in the car after dinner. I closed my eyes. Why didn't you tell me? Because you needed Sunday. There it was again. People making decisions for me because they had decided what I needed. Only this time, the decision had been to keep coming. You should have told me. I know. Your sister should have told me. I know. Apparently nobody in this family knows how to speak. David laughed softly. We are excellent at eating. I looked at enough chicken for 8 people. Not tonight. At 4:30, Luke arrived. He carried a pizza. I opened the door. What is that? Dinner. I made dinner. I know. Then why did you bring pizza? Insurance. I let him in. We ate chicken. The pizza stayed in the box. Luke sat in Paul's usual chair. I sat at the head of the table. Marian's chair remained empty. Luke looked at it. Then looked at me. Dad told you? Yes. Are you mad? Yes. At him? Currently at everyone. Luke nodded as though that was reasonable. We ate quietly. Then he said. Can I tell you something without you getting madder? No. Okay. He kept eating. I lasted 30 seconds. What? Luke put down his fork. Aunt Catherine does most of Sunday dinner. I stared at him. She does not. Okay. No. What do you mean? Luke counted on his fingers. She buys groceries sometimes. She comes early. She chops stuff. She washes dishes. She takes trash out. She brings half the desserts. Everyone helps. Not like her. She likes helping. Luke gave me exactly the look Catherine had given me. Apparently Marian's invention had spread beyond the bloodline. She used to come before Grandma died too, Luke said. That stopped me. What? For years. I thought back. Catherine did often arrive early. I had assumed she liked spending time with her mother. She probably did. Apparently she was also doing work. Luke continued. Grandma would make lists for her. What lists? Food. Stuff to pick up. Things to bring. How do you know? I drove Aunt Catherine to the store a bunch of times when I first got my license. I had never known. There is a dangerous assumption people make in long marriages. You begin to believe that because you see your spouse every day, you see everything they do. You do not. You see the finished kitchen. Not every hand that cleaned it. You see dinner at 4. Not every phone call that put it there. After Luke left, I opened Marian's recipe cabinet. There were 3 binders. Blue for dinners. Red for desserts. Green for recipes she claimed were healthy but usually contained cheese. I had not opened the blue binder since she died. I did not need it. I knew our Sunday recipes. Or I thought I did. Between roast chicken and meatloaf, I found several old calendar pages Marian had folded and used as dividers. There were notes in her handwriting. Nothing dramatic. No final message from beyond the grave. Just logistics. Kathy bringing green beans. David late. Megan vegetarian this month. Paul doing dishes. Luke bringing folding chairs. Order pizza because oven broken. One note from 15 years earlier said, "Let Edward think he made gravy alone." I laughed. Then I sat down. The pages told a story I had somehow missed while living inside it. Sunday dinner had never stayed the same. It only looked that way from my chair. Children became adults. Meals got simpler. People changed diets. Someone worked late. Someone brought food. Someone else cleaned. Marian had adjusted constantly. I was the one who remembered the tradition as fixed. Because fixed felt safer. The following Tuesday, Catherine came to my house. She had not been invited. That normally annoyed me. This time I opened the door. "I found Mom's binder," I said. Catherine went still. "Which one?" "Blue." She smiled. "Oh. You were doing groceries?" "Yes." "For how long?" She thought about it. 12 years? 12? Maybe 13. Why didn't anyone tell me? Catherine laughed. We weren't hiding state secrets. I thought your mother and I did Sunday dinner. You did. And me. And David sometimes. And Joanne. And Paul. Why did you do so much? She looked toward the kitchen. Because Mom got tired. The answer was simple. It hurt anyway. When? Years before she got sick. That hurt more. Marian had arthritis in her hands. A bad hip. Later, heart problems. I knew all of this. I had watched all of it. Apparently I had not understood what had changed. Catherine said. She didn't want you to stop Sunday dinner. Why? Because you loved it. I stared at my daughter. She loved it too. Yes. Then Catherine added. But not every part. There are truths about dead spouses that surviving spouses resist because no rebuttal is possible. What does that mean? It means sometimes Mom wanted to order Chinese food. She hated Chinese food. No, you hate Chinese food. I opened my mouth. Then closed it. Catherine smiled. She liked the noodles. I felt betrayed by noodles. She also wanted to skip dinner occasionally. She wanted people to bring more things. She hated cleaning the roasting pan. Everyone hates cleaning the roasting pan. Exactly. Then Catherine became serious. After Mom died, I kept doing everything because I thought you needed Sunday. I did. I know. But Dad, I started dreading Saturdays. Saturday? That's when I shopped. She laughed softly. You didn't even know which day I dreaded. I had no answer. Catherine sat at the table. For 4 years, I felt like if I stopped doing Sunday, I was letting Mom disappear. I looked at her. Those were almost my words. Not exactly. But close enough. She continued. And I felt like I had to become her. That was new. What? Someone had to remember who doesn't eat onions. Someone had to call David and ask if he was coming. Someone had to bring dessert. Someone had to notice Abby had a school thing at 5. Someone had to make sure there was enough coffee. Your mother did those things. I know. And after she died, everyone looked at me. I wanted to deny that. I could not. Catherine was Marian's daughter. Same brown eyes. Same ability to remember birthdays. Same habit of cleaning while talking on the phone. We had not consciously appointed her. We had simply allowed the work to roll downhill until it stopped at her feet. I didn't know, I said. Catherine's expression changed. I know. I did not like hearing that sentence from her. It sounded too much like forgiveness before I had properly apologized. I should have known. She shrugged. You should have noticed some of it. That's worse. It is more accurate. We sat quietly for a while. Then I said, you still lied to everyone. Catherine nodded. Yes. You should have told me you were tired. Yes. You should have told them it was your idea. Yes. You should not have decided I needed to stop. Yes. I waited. She looked at me. Are you finished? No. She smiled. That sounds right. Before leaving, Catherine asked, what do you actually want Sunday dinner to be? I answered immediately. What it was. She looked disappointed. I was offended by that. Then after she left, I went into the dining room. Marian's chair was at the far side of the table. Same place. Same chair. Same faded cushion she had selected because she said the old one made her feel like she was sitting on a brick. I rested my hand on the back. What was it? I asked aloud. The chair was unhelpful. The following Sunday, I did something unprecedented. I did not invite anyone. At 3:45, I left the house. I drove to a diner 3 miles away called Sullivan's. Marian and I used to go there for breakfast after church when the children were young. I had not been inside since she died. The place had changed. New booths. Different lights. Menus printed on thick brown paper that made every sandwich sound artisanal. The coffee remained terrible. Some institutions survive. I sat alone in a booth. At 4:10, my phone rang. Abby. Catherine's younger daughter. 16. Red hair she inherited from Paul's side. An expression that regularly suggested adults were a temporary inconvenience. Grandpa. Yes. Are you home? No. Silence. Where are you? Sullivan's. By yourself? Yes. More silence. Then. Can I come? 20 minutes later, Abby slid into the booth opposite me. She ordered fries and a milkshake. It was 4:30 on a Sunday. I did not comment. Personal growth occasionally resembles allowing a teenager to drink ice cream before dinner. Abby asked, "Are you and Mom still fighting?" Yes. Cool. How is that cool? Because when Mom says you're not fighting, she cleans really hard. I smiled. Marian used to do that. Then Abby said, I kind of like not having Sunday dinner. I put my coffee down. Apparently this is the week everyone tells me things. She looked nervous. Don't be mad. People keep saying that directly before irritating me. Abby stirred her milkshake. After Grandma died, Sunday got weird. There it was again. What was weird? Nobody said her name. I frowned. We talked about Grandma. Not really. Yes, we did. You told stories about when Dad was little. Those were about your grandmother. No, they were funny stories where she happened to be there. I leaned back. Abby continued. Nobody ever said we missed her. I looked through the diner window. Cars moved through the parking lot. A family of 4 walked in laughing. Abby said. It felt like we were acting in a play where Grandma was just late. I will remember that sentence for the rest of my life. A play where Grandma was just late. I had thought keeping Sunday dinner unchanged honored Marian. To my granddaughter, it made Marian's absence impossible to mention. Why didn't you say anything? Abby raised one eyebrow. I was 12. Fair. Then she added. And you wouldn't let anyone sit in her chair. That is her chair. I know. She took a fry. But chairs don't miss people. Children have no respect for careful emotional architecture. They find a supporting wall and kick it. We stayed at Sullivan's for almost 2 hours. Abby told me about school. A teacher she disliked. A boy she claimed she did not like but discussed for approximately 16 minutes. I did not ask questions. I am old, not foolish. When I dropped her home, Catherine came outside. She looked at Abby. Where were you? With Grandpa. I know that. Where? Eating fries. Catherine looked at me. At 5:30? I am no longer responsible for Sunday dinner. Abby whispered. Emotional growth. I drove away before Catherine could respond. The next week I called David. Not Sunday. Wednesday. I want you to tell me about your mother. There was a pause. What? Something you miss. David became quiet. Then he said, she called me every Monday morning. I knew that. I had heard half those calls. Marian would walk around the kitchen holding the phone against her shoulder while wiping counters that were already clean. I knew they talked. I did not know Monday morning belonged to David. What did you talk about? Nothing. Nothing for how long? 20 years? I smiled. That sounded like Marian. David said. She always asked if I'd eaten breakfast. You were 50 when she died. I know. Did she think you were unable to feed yourself? Apparently. We both laughed. Then David said. The first Monday after she died, I kept my phone beside me until lunch. My throat tightened. I thought about Abby looking at Sunday dinner like a stage. Catherine becoming Marian without wanting the job. David driving home crying after sitting across from an empty chair. My grief had filled the house so completely that I had mistaken everyone else's grief for furniture. It was there. I simply walked around it. That Friday, I moved Marian's chair. Not far. I moved it from the dining table to the wall beneath the window. It took me 20 minutes. Not physically. Emotionally. I put my hands on the chair. Pulled. Stopped. Walked into the kitchen. Returned. Pulled again. It moved 3 feet. Nothing terrible happened. Marian remained dead. That sounds cruel. It was also freeing. The chair had not been keeping her near me. It had been keeping a seat empty. On Saturday, I sent my first message to the family group chat in 4 years. Luke added me back. I wrote. Sunday, 4 o'clock. No roast. No obligation. Come if you want. Bring food if you want. Order food if you want. I am not cooking for 8 people. Also, whoever sits in Marian's chair owes me $20. Megan replied first. Is this Grandpa? Luke wrote. His account has been compromised. David wrote. Who are you and what have you done with my father? Catherine did not reply. Sunday at 3:52, Luke arrived carrying a bucket of fried chicken. At 3:58, Megan arrived with salad. Actual salad. Not green beans. At 4:05, David and Joanne arrived with bread and a pie. At 4:12, Abby arrived. Without Catherine. Where's your mother? Home. Why? Abby shrugged. She said she didn't know if you really wanted her here. That hurt. Fairly. I had spent several weeks demonstrating exactly how efficiently I could hold a grudge. Paul arrived alone 5 minutes later. She's stubborn, he said. She gets that from her mother. That's not what Marian said. I liked Paul less for approximately 5 seconds. Then something happened at the table. Abby stopped beside Marian's old chair. The one now near the window. She looked at the space where it had been. Then at me. You moved it. I have excellent upper body strength. No, you don't. Sit down. There was an ordinary dining chair in Marian's old place. Abby stood behind it. Can I? Everyone stopped moving. I hated that. The whole family looking at me as though I were about to approve a constitutional amendment. It is a chair, I said. Abby sat. For perhaps 10 seconds, I could hear Marian. Not literally. Memory is strange enough without becoming supernatural. I could hear what she would have said. Finally. Dinner was terrible. The chicken was cold. Megan's dressing tasted like mustard had won a war. David forgot butter. Luke ate half the pie before coffee. It was one of the best Sunday dinners we ever had. People moved around. Nobody asked permission to clean. Megan used paper plates for dessert. I objected. Then remembered I was trying to become tolerable. At 6:30, everyone had gone except Paul. He stood in the kitchen washing 2 glasses. Tell Catherine the first one to talk to her. Tell her yourself. I looked at him. Do all of you have new personalities? No. We're just tired of being messengers. The next morning, I drove to Catherine's school. She taught American history at the same high school for 30 years. I waited in the parking lot until classes ended. When Catherine saw me leaning against my car, she looked worried. What happened? Nothing. She narrowed her eyes. Are you sure? Yes. I came to talk. We walked around the football field. At 79, walking beside a high school football field is an excellent way to remember how unreasonable youth is. Students ran voluntarily. Nobody chased them. I told Catherine Sunday dinner had happened. I know. Abby? Paul? Why didn't you come? Catherine took several steps before answering. Because I was tired. Not angry. Not punishing me. Tired. I heard it differently this time. How tired? She laughed. What does that mean? I don't know. I'm trying. That made her stop. We stood beside the bleachers. Catherine said, for years, Sunday wasn't Sunday for me. It was Saturday groceries. Sunday morning baking. Getting Abby to finish homework early. Getting Megan home from work. Driving to your house. Cleaning your kitchen. Going home and getting ready for Monday. I thought you liked it. I did. Then you didn't? Dad, both can be true. I thought about David missing Sunday but not regretting staying home. Apparently my children had developed an alarming tolerance for complexity. Catherine said, I loved seeing everyone. I loved Mom. I loved you. And sometimes I wanted to spend Sunday in pajamas and not care whether anyone remembered cranberry sauce. I smiled. Your mother hated cranberry sauce. Mom bought cranberry sauce every Thanksgiving. For me. Yes. I had thought it was tradition. Maybe it had just been love in a can. Then Catherine said something I had not expected. Mom and I fought about Sunday. I stopped walking. When? The year before she died. About what? She wanted to cancel one. I almost laughed. One dinner? Yes. And? I told her you'd be upset. Catherine looked down. She told me that was your problem. That sounded exactly like Marian. What happened? We had dinner. Catherine smiled sadly. I convinced her. So you were controlling your mother before you started controlling me. Apparently I have range. We both laughed. Then she said, I think I kept Sunday going partly because I felt guilty about that. There it was. Another person using Sunday dinner to negotiate with a dead woman. I had thought the ritual belonged to me. In reality, every member of my family had attached a different meaning to the same 4 o'clock meal. To me, it meant continuity. To Catherine, responsibility. To David, grief. To Abby, pretending. To Luke, probably free food. Nobody was actually attending the same dinner. I asked Catherine, what would you want it to be? She looked suspicious. You're asking me? Yes. Are you ill? Dr. Ramirez says no. She laughed. Then thought about the question. Not every Sunday. I felt an immediate objection rise. I let it pass. Okay. Catherine stared at me. I wasn't finished. Do not abuse the opportunity. Maybe twice a month. Sometimes your house. Sometimes ours. Sometimes David's if we feel like spending half the day in the car. Food? Whoever hosts decides. That sounded dangerously unstructured. What about 4 o'clock? Catherine smiled. We can keep 4. A person should know when he has won enough. 2 weeks later, Sunday dinner happened at Catherine's house. She ordered barbecue. From a restaurant. On Sunday. I considered reporting her. Instead I ate ribs. David and Joanne drove down. Luke came. Megan brought a boyfriend named Connor. I had never met Connor. Apparently they had been dating 7 months. This was information I felt should have appeared in a newsletter. Megan had never brought him to my Sunday dinner because I had once said Sunday was family. I did not remember saying that. Everyone else did. Connor was polite. Nervous. Ate 4 ribs. I liked him. I told Megan he could come again. She said, "Wow, growth." I began to regret teaching the family that word. After dinner, Catherine took out an old photograph. Marian was standing in my kitchen wearing an apron with a lobster on it. I remembered the apron. I had bought it in Maine. She hated it. Catherine said, "Mom made me promise to burn this." I wondered where it went. Trash. You threw away a perfectly good apron? She threatened me. Everyone laughed. Then David told a story about Marian backing the station wagon through our garage door in 1987. She had denied responsibility despite the fact that she was still sitting in the driver's seat when I came outside. Joanne remembered Marian sending her home with soup when she and David first got married. Abby said she remembered Grandma letting her eat cereal for dinner one night when I was out. I said, "She did what?" The family laughed harder. For the first time since Marian died, we spent a Sunday talking about her as though she had actually lived. Not as the woman whose traditions we were maintaining. Not as an empty chair. Not as the reason everyone had to be careful. Marian. Funny. Bossy. Generous. Occasionally unreasonable. A person. On the drive home, I cried. Not much. Enough. I missed her. I also felt closer to her than I had in years. That confused me until I realized why. For 4 years, I had been preserving the shape of Marian's life. That night, we remembered the woman inside it. There is a difference. November came. Then Thanksgiving. The family asked whether I wanted to host. They asked. That mattered more than I expected. I said yes. Then I added. But Catherine is not doing my shopping. Catherine said. Thank you. I am ordering most of it. The entire table went silent. David said. Who are you? We ordered turkey, stuffing, potatoes. I made gravy and apple crumble. Some standards remain necessary. At 3:50, Catherine arrived carrying nothing. She stood in the doorway. This feels wrong. What? I have nothing. You have yourself. The sentence came out before I could stop it. Catherine's eyes filled. I immediately regretted becoming sentimental. Don't make this difficult. She hugged me. It was already difficult. Thanksgiving went well. Mostly. I complained the purchased stuffing was too salty. Paul said Marian's had been too salty every year. I told him he was rewriting history. David said. No, Dad. Mom's stuffing could preserve meat. Everyone agreed. Apparently grief had protected Marian from criticism for 4 years. The protection ended that Thanksgiving. I think she would have appreciated it. In December, Catherine called me on a Thursday. She sounded strange. Not frightened. Tired. Dad, can you pick Abby up after school tomorrow? Yes. She paused. That's it? What else should happen? You usually ask why. Why? She laughed. Then she told me she and Paul were going away overnight. Not a vacation. Just a hotel in the city. Dinner. Sleep. Breakfast. They had not done anything alone in months. I said. Good. Another pause. Dad? What? Thank you. I picked Abby up Friday. She stayed at my house. We ordered Chinese food. I did not enjoy it. This is important. Personal growth has limits. Abby ordered noodles. I tried them. They were acceptable. I did not tell anyone. After dinner, Abby helped me put ornaments on the Christmas tree. We found Marian's wooden angel. The left wing had been cracked since 1994. Every year I had offered to fix it. Every year Marian said, "Leave her alone. She survived." Abby held the angel. Should we fix it? I looked at the crack. No. Abby smiled. Because Grandma said? No. Because I like it. That was another small change. For 4 years, I had kept things because Marian wanted them. Now, occasionally, I allowed myself to want them too. Christmas dinner happened at David's house. It was the first Christmas in 41 years I did not eat at my own dining table. I hated the drive. I disliked his chairs. His kitchen was too open. His coffee maker required a degree in engineering. I had a wonderful time. At one point David handed me a carving knife and asked me to cut the turkey. I looked at him. Is this ceremonial? Yes. Am I allowed to sit afterward? No. Good. I carved the turkey. Then Luke carried the platter. I let him. January was quiet. Not lonely. Quiet. I had spent years treating the two words as synonyms. They are not. Some Sundays nobody came. I read. Watched football. Went to Sullivan's. Called David. Once I took a nap at 4:15. I woke at 5:40 and briefly expected Marian to accuse me of wasting the day. Then I remembered she once fell asleep during her own birthday party. Hypocrite. The first Sunday in February, everyone came to my house. Not planned. It simply happened. Luke called and asked what I was doing. Nothing. He said he was nearby. Then Catherine called. Then David. By 4:30 there were 9 people in my house. Nobody had cooked. We ordered pizza. I ate 2 slices. Again, this information is confidential. Megan brought Connor. Abby brought a friend. Luke brought his laundry for reasons nobody could explain. The house was louder than it had been in years. At 5:10, I noticed something. Marian's chair was no longer by the window. Paul had pulled it into the living room because there were not enough seats. He was sitting in it. My first instinct was to tell him to get up. The instinct arrived clearly. Then passed. Paul sat there for 2 hours. The chair survived. So did I. That spring, Luke moved into his first apartment. He invited us to Sunday dinner. I assumed he was joking. He was not. His apartment had 1 couch, a television on a folding table, and exactly 4 forks. 9 people attended. We ate spaghetti from mismatched bowls. I asked why he had invited everyone before purchasing adequate silverware. Luke said, "Tradition." I looked at Catherine. She smiled. Luke burned the garlic bread. Marian always burned garlic bread. I almost said it. Then I did. Your grandmother would be proud. Luke looked at the blackened bread. She burned it too? Every time. Catherine said. Because Dad kept distracting her. I did not. You stood in the kitchen explaining how she should make garlic bread. That is support. Everyone laughed. I laughed too. Marian was in the room. Not as a ghost. Not as an empty chair. As something we shared. There is a difference between keeping someone present and refusing to let anything move after they leave. I had spent 4 years learning it. On my 80th birthday, the family asked what I wanted. I said, nothing. Catherine said, that is not an answer. I told her it had worked for me for 8 decades. She remained unimpressed. Finally I said I wanted Sunday dinner. Everyone became quiet. Then I said, at my house. More silence. And I am cooking. Catherine put both hands over her face. I continued. 1 dish. She lowered her hands. 1? 1. Which? Apple crumble. Everyone else brought dinner. David brought roast chicken. Joanne potatoes. Catherine salad. Paul bread. Luke brought garlic bread that was only slightly burned. Megan brought cake. Abby brought nothing and claimed being 16 was her contribution. There were 11 people at the table. Connor was there. Abby's friend. Luke's girlfriend, whom he had apparently been seeing for 3 months without issuing proper documentation. We had to add 2 chairs. One of them was Marian's. Catherine sat in it. I noticed. She noticed that I noticed. For 1 second, she looked like she might stand. I shook my head. Stay. She did. At dessert, Megan asked me what my favorite Sunday dinner had been. I told her 1989. Nobody remembered it. Marian had made lasagna. David had a broken arm. Catherine had just come home from college. The furnace stopped working. We wore coats at the table. The lasagna burned on the bottom. It was terrible. Marian laughed so hard she cried. Then Catherine said, I remember that. David said, so do I. We spent 20 minutes reconstructing the evening. Who sat where? Why David's arm was broken. Whether Marian had actually burned the lasagna or whether the oven thermostat was broken. I blamed the oven. Catherine blamed Marian. David blamed me because I had installed the thermostat. Everyone laughed. That was when I understood what Sunday dinner really was. It was not 4 o'clock. It was not my dining room. It was not pot roast. Or gravy. Or Marian's chair. It was repetition long enough to become memory. A place where the same people returned often enough to notice one another changing. That was what Marian had built. And, without meaning to, I had nearly confused the building with the address. Catherine had been wrong to tell everyone I wanted them gone. I want that clear. She had no right to speak for me because she was afraid. Concern is not ownership. Love does not become permission simply because the person you love is older. But I had been wrong too. I had made Sunday dinner carry too much. My marriage. My usefulness. My family's closeness. My proof that nothing important had changed. That was too much weight for one meal. Especially a meal that already required mashed potatoes. I had also mistaken doing everything myself for generosity. Sometimes it was generosity. Sometimes it was pride. And occasionally pride is simply fear wearing an apron. I was afraid that if somebody else cooked, I had less to offer. If somebody carried chairs, I was weaker. If dinner moved to Catherine's house, my house mattered less. If Marian's chair moved, Marian moved farther away. None of it was true. But fear does not require truth before becoming convincing. Neither does love. That was Catherine's mistake. She loved me. She was frightened. She was exhausted. So she lied to the family and called it protection. That does not make the lie acceptable. It makes it understandable. Those are different things. Understanding is not surrendering the right to be angry. Forgiveness is not pretending nothing happened. Sometimes forgiveness is simply deciding a mistake will not become the permanent definition of somebody you have loved for 55 years. Catherine had been my daughter before that message. She was still my daughter after it. I am 80 now. Sunday dinner still exists. Sometimes. The first Sunday of every month is usually mine. Usually. I have learned the word. Another Sunday might be Catherine's. Another David's. Luke has hosted twice. His fork situation has improved. Sometimes we meet at a restaurant. Once we ate sandwiches in a park. I complained about ants. Marian would have complained first. Some Sundays nothing happens. Nobody comes. Nobody has betrayed me. Nobody has abandoned tradition. People simply have lives. I have one too. That may be the most important part. For several years after Marian died, I believe my family's presence was what kept me from becoming alone. Now I know there is a difference between being alone and being abandoned. A quiet house is not proof nobody loves you. An empty Sunday is not evidence your family has forgotten. Sometimes quiet is simply quiet. And because I no longer fear it as much, family noise feels better when it arrives. Last month Catherine came over on a Tuesday. No dinner. No holiday. No reason. She brought coffee. We sat in the kitchen for an hour. At one point she asked, "Do you miss doing dinner every week?" Yes. She looked surprised. I thought you liked the new system. I do. She smiled. Both can be true. I pointed at her. Do not become smug. She laughed. Then she asked, "Do you miss Mom more on Sundays?" I thought about it. No. That surprised me. I miss Marian in the grocery store when I reach for a brand she hated. I miss her when the weather report says snow because she would immediately begin worrying about roads she had no intention of driving on. I miss her when I hear someone call the remote control a remote, because she never surrendered the word changer. I miss her in bed. In the car. At Christmas. On Tuesdays. Grief stopped respecting the schedule a long time ago. That is probably healthy. Catherine looked toward the dining room. Marian's chair was there. Back at the table now. Not in Marian's old position. We rearranged the table when I bought a new cabinet. Another crime against tradition. Catherine said, "Do you ever wish I'd never sent that message?" Yes. She looked hurt. Then I continued. I wish you had talked to me. So do I. But I don't wish none of this happened. She looked at me. Really? No. Why? Because before the message, our family was still having Sunday dinner every week. We were together. And we were hiding from one another in the same room. Catherine was tired. David was grieving. Abby felt uncomfortable. I was afraid. Nobody said any of it. We had preserved the dinner. We had not preserved the conversation. Now we have both. Not every Sunday. But enough. Tomorrow is Sunday. Nobody is coming to my house. At least not for dinner. Catherine and Paul are going to visit Megan. David and Joanne have plans with friends. Luke is working. Abby claims she has studying to do, which I consider suspicious. I am going to Sullivan's at 4. There is a man there named Frank who sits in the corner booth most Sunday afternoons. His wife died 2 years ago. He complains about the coffee more than I do. We have become friends. At 6, Luke may stop by to pick up a drill. He will probably stay for 20 minutes and leave after 2 hours. On Tuesday, Catherine is bringing over soup. I did not ask for soup. She asked if she could bring it. I said yes. There is a difference. The first Sunday nobody came. I thought my family had stopped needing my table. I was wrong. The table was never what held us together. We did. And sometimes, the only way to keep a family tradition alive is to stop asking it to remain exactly the same.